Hey everybody, it's Tsetzuko here with another Hearthstone video. Today we're going to talk about Deck Building 101. And we're doing this because this coming Monday, December 8th, Goblins vs. Gnomes is launching. And I'm going to be opening a lot of packs, and I'm going to be building a lot of new decks, experimental decks, things like that. And I wanted to put a video out so people would have the opportunity to learn some about deck building, so I wouldn't have to explain everything on the Goblins vs. Gnome stream, which, by the way, that stream starts Monday at 8 p.m. CST, and I've got a 3-hour block set up right now for it, so be prepared for that. So, big question is, why would you want to build your own decks in the first place? And just to make things easy, I'm pulling a little bit off of Icy Veins here. That makes some pretty good points. So first off, if you build your own deck, you're going to know what's in it. You're going to be familiar with it. And you're going to know, okay, I've still got this card left, got that card left. And just all around in general, that's going to help you to be a better player if you're very familiar with the deck that you're playing. And building your deck will give you that familiar I can't say that word. It will give you that sense of comfort with the deck that you've built. Also, you can, when you build a deck, you can cater it towards your own play style. There's plenty of decks out there that you can go. I showed previously in one of my videos, how you could go to hearthhead.com, or you could go to hearthpwn.com or something like that, and you could look at decks that other people have built. But just because someone's built a deck and a deck is doing well doesn't mean that it's going to fit your playstyle. Myself in particular, I like to be in control of my hand of cards. So I like randomness, but I like randomness that I determine. So for example, there's a card called Doomguard, which I'll pull it up for you here. I've got Hearthstone on a second monitor, so I'll be looking this way when I'm messing with Hearthstone. Well, let's see. So just for example, here's a Doomguard. It's got Charge, Battlecry, and you have to discard 2 random cards. I don't like those kind of effects. That's not my playstyle. I like the Charge and the Battlecry, or the Charge, and he's a nice 5 for 5 or 5/7 for 5 mana, which is cool. But discarding 2 random cards, the only way I'm comfortable with that is if I play this guy and he's the only card in my hand. So for my playstyle, it's not really suited to me. So if I build my own deck, then I can build stuff around the playstyle that I enjoy, that I'm comfortable with, that I feel confident with, and having a deck that you built, that you set up with your playstyle, and then winning games with that deck is incredibly satisfying. And even losing games, but seeing how your deck performs, you're getting a sense of, hey, I made this. What can I do to make it better? So you have that sense of accomplishment from building a deck as well. And also, if you are able to build your own decks, then you don't have to wait around for people to build decks for you as the game changes and as new cards come out or cards get buffed or nerfed. You don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. So what we're going to go over is just some basic 101 deck building stuff. We're not going to get too in-depth here, but we are going to take a look at a couple just example decks. We'll build a quick deck, that kind of stuff. So what do you need to think about when you start building a deck? Well, you need to think about the goals of your deck. What are you wanting to do? Are you wanting to put out a ton of minions early on in the game and just slam your opponent's face over and over so that by round 5 or 6 they're almost dead? Do you want to control your opponent so that every time they play something you counter it, and then at the end of the game you just put out these big huge minions that are unstoppable? Do you want to just maintain control throughout the game and maybe not put out those huge minions or a bunch of small minions, but you want to just have a consistent, steady pace that allows you to be on top throughout the entire game? Do you want to do something weird like make a pirate deck? Do you want to, make a Murloc deck? Do you want to make a deck that revolves around one particular combination of cards? For example, rogues. There's a thing called Miracle Rogue, So there is a card that I actually have. It got nerfed recently, but it is Leroy Jenkins. And those of you who have played WoW are going to be pretty familiar with Leroy Jenkins. So Leroy Jenkins, he was a 4.6.2. Now he's a 5.6.2, so he got a bit of a nerf. But he has charge, and he hits for 6 damage, which is pretty beastly. It's pretty good. But rogues in particular had a combination where they would Shadow Step and Cold Blood on Leroy. So what they would do is they would take the Leroy, they would play Leroy, and then they would play Cold Blood. And because they played Leroy, they would have combo. So Leroy would get +4. And so he would come out, charge, he would do 10 damage right then. Then they would Shadow Step, which returns a friendly minion to your hand and it costs 2 less. And they could play him again on the same turn. So they could essentially, even now, they could still, if they had 2 Cold Bloods and 2 Shadow Steps, or 2 Cold Bloods and a Shadow Step in their hand, they could play Leroy 3 times on one turn. Sorry. 2 times. They play him 2 times on one turn. But that's 16 damage in one turn. Which is ridiculous. That's over half your health. So that's like a specific combination of cards that just does a ridiculous amount of damage. So you got to think about what the goals are for the deck that you want to build. And if you're not sure, the easiest thing to do is think about, how you like to play. And if you're not sure how you like to play, then play some matches and figure it out. Me personally, I'm not someone who likes to put all my eggs in one basket as far as, I'm going to rush them down the beginning of the game and just do all my damage then. And if something goes wrong, I'm just screwed. I'm also not the kind of person who wants to wait around and hope that at the end of the game, I'm going to have these big minions they can't do anything about. I'm someone who likes to play consistently throughout the game, and I also like to counter my opponent. So I like to, you put this down? Alright, well I got this that's going to answer it, and, now I just messed up your plans. So that's kind of my play style. So if you're not sure about your play style, play some matches, try to figure it out, or just have fun. Pick a theme. If you're going to play a hunter, say, hey, this is pretty obvious. I'm going to make a beast deck. And make a beast deck. So, next coming up, you got to decide, 1, what hero do I want to play? Or what hero has the best cards for the type of deck that I want to make? For example, if you want to do a lot of spell damage and stuff like that, and you want to say, get in here and, you want your spells to do a lot of damage to the hero, well, a mage is a good choice for that, because you've got your fireballs, deal 6 damage. You've got your pyroblasts, deal 10 damage. You've got your hero power, which does 1 damage to something. You could go as a warlock, because you have deal 4 damage. You've got, let's see, where's it at? Drain life, deal 3 damage and restore 2 health. Just stuff like that. So maybe you've got the Hellfire, deal 3 damage to all characters. That includes the enemy and yourself. But, maybe Paladin is not the best choice if you want to do spells like that, because they do have some spells that will do damage. But a lot of them are random, or they're focused on the enemy minions and not the enemy themselves. If you want to play a deck where you can heal yourself a lot, you're probably not going to want to play a rogue deck. So you got to figure out, either just what hero you want to play. Like if you love to play the shaman, then okay, you've got shaman cards to work with. What can you do to build a deck out of that? If, however, you're just saying, oh, I want to make a pirate deck, then, figure out what hero is going to fit with that. And then once you do that, you get to the actual deck building process, where you click on new deck here and you pick your hero, whoever it may be, and you're going to start adding your cards in. And what you want to pay attention to is your mana curve. Your mana curve is very important. And what a mana curve is, as we know, each one of these cards has a mana cost. So here we have a cost of 1. Go look at some other cards. We've got cost of 3 here, all the way up to Deathwing with cost of 10, and there's some giants, I believe, that cost 12, 8, I'm not sure. Either way, you got to pay attention to your mana curve, and what that is when you hover over this, your nameplate up here, you're going to see the cards and mana cost. And as you add cards, like let's say we add Deathwing in, you're going to see that it shows that out of all my cards, I have one card that costs 7 or more mana. Now, depending on the type of deck that you want to make, you're going to want to regulate your mana curve accordingly. So if you want to play a rush deck, which is a deck, like I mentioned earlier, where right out of the gate you're just throwing everything you have at your enemy, you're just putting down all kinds of minions and just trying to ram everything into their face before they have time to build a defense or counter, then you're going to have a mana curve that is going to peak at lower mana cost levels. So just to show you real quick, these are a couple of decks of mine that I've been using. The Priest, for example, if you look at this mana curve, it's not even really a curve, because like I said, I kind of like to play across the board. Also, this deck has a theme, which makes it a little bit weird as well. So you can see that I've got 5/1 cost cards, 6/2 costs, 6/3 costs, 4/4 costs, 6/5 costs, 1/6 costs, 2/7 costs. So I've got a pretty solid mid-range of cards. I've got options throughout. I don't have a whole bunch of low-cost cards. I don't have a bunch of high-cost cards. If you have a bunch of high-cost cards, chances are you're playing some sort of a control deck where your goal is just to stall at the beginning of the game and get to where you can play those high-cost cards so that, because they're unstoppable. They're things that you're playing. You're playing Deathwing, you're playing Nozdormu, you're putting out 2 of these guys, and you're just putting out a lot of really big minions that cost a lot. Whereas, like I said before, if you're playing a rush deck, you might have a lot of small creatures with charge, or you might have a lot of minions that can buff each other, such as the Raid Leader, if I can find him. I'm missing him somehow. Anyway, so you got to keep in mind your mana curve, and you'll see more about that as we kind of build the deck. So the first thing you're going to want to do, let's say we're just going to make a solid, non-theme specific new deck for, let's just say we're going to do one for the Warrior. Okay? And we're only going to use cards in the basic set. So the first thing you want to do is you want to add your core cards. So for example, if you were trying to do that Miracle Rogue combo I was talking about, where you have the Leroy Jenkins at the Cold Step and the Shadow Step and the Cold Blood, you're going to want to put those cards in there because they're essential to what you're doing. In our case, we're just making a generic, well-rounded deck. Nothing too crazy, nothing too specific. So we're going to want to start with a solid lineup of creatures that we know are really good, really, have good value. So we might say, okay, let's go Stormwind Champion, Boulder Fist Ogre, Stormpipe Commando. And this is what I usually start from the top and work my way down. But you can do whatever you want there. Take a Sinjin Shield Master, Shattered Sun Cleric. We're going to grab the Novice Engineer for some card draw. And then for our 1, we have options. Let's go with the Voodoo Doctor, just to change it up. I use Elven Archers all the time. Actually, Yeah, let's go with that. So we're at 14 of 30 cards now. So we got a nice little base of creatures there. And if you look at our mana curve, it's not a curve. It's a mana bar, essentially. So once you've got your core cards in there, you're going to want to start adding your class-specific cards, because what you add from your class is going to influence what type of minions and neutral cards that you pick up. So some of these cards that we have, we might actually end up getting rid of because we see synergies with our class-specific cards that line up to other neutral cards. And just to show you a quick example of that, so you'll get what I'm talking about right away, here's a warrior card called Execute. So Execute will destroy a damaged enemy minion. And this actually has good synergy with the Elven Archer. So the Elven Archer, you can play the Elven Archer for 1 mana. The battle cry lets you deal 1 damage to something, and then because something has been dealt that 1 damage, you can immediately follow it up with Execute. And there you go. 2 mana, you just killed something. You could have killed, an 8/8 creature, or, a really tough creature who has a really nasty onboard effect or something like that. So there's some synergy there. So after you get your core of creature cards in there, basically your core neutral cards, or the cards that are specific to your combo, or the cards that are specific to your theme, like if we were going to make a pirate deck, we would want to go through here and try to find all of our pirate cards, which I don't even know. Are there any in the base set? Let's see. There's got to be one. No, I don't see any. So, yeah, if we were going to make a pirate deck, we'd want to go through and put in all the pirates. Or if we were going to make a Murloc deck, we'd go put in all the Murlocs. So get your core in, then go and check out your class-specific cards. Now, you can go about it however you want. In the case of warriors, you have spells, creatures, and weapons that you have to choose between. Most of the time, you're choosing between spells and creatures. I believe 5 or so, maybe 6 heroes actually have weapons to choose from. That number is actually going to expand a little bit in Goblins versus Gnomes. But so we go through and, once again, I'll kind of look from the top down and go, okay, what do we have? Okay, we've got an Arcanite Reaper. Alright, that's a solid warrior card. It gives you 5 attack that you can use twice on a minion. You attack with your hero. That keeps you from having to attack things with your creatures. And you want your creatures to stick to the board, so it's a pretty solid card. So let's go ahead and pick that up. Alright, Kor'kron Elite. That's a great card. A 4 for 4/4, or sorry, a 4/3. So when I say this, 4/3, 4 attack, 3 health for 4 mana. I'm sorry you guys can't see the mouse. That's a good card with charge. It's pretty solid. I like it. Alright, 3 cost cards. We've got a couple of different options here. I have, this is a golden card. It's just a fancy animated version of a regular card. And it disenchants for a lot more dust, by the way. So we've got this. Give a friendly minion +2 attack and charge. Okay. We've got Shield Block. You gain 5 armor and you draw a card. That's a really solid card in my opinion. I like it a lot. And then we've got the Warsong Commander, who is a 2/3 for 3. And whenever you summon a minion with 3 or less attack, you can give it charge. Well, we don't have a lot of minions with 3 or less attack right now. We've got a few. But let's go with Shield Block. Let's put Shield Block in there. That gives us some card draw. And it gives us basically what equates to 5 extra health. Hit the 2s. We've got Cleave. Cleave's a good one. Deal 2 damage to 2 random enemy minions. If you can make it so that there's only 2 minions on the board, then you can guarantee that you're going to do 2 damage to those 2 minions. That's a pretty solid card. We could get the Fiery War Axe. It's not a terrible card. It's an early game removal type weapon, but we're at 23 of 30. because apparently I forgot to add. We're definitely going to add Execute. It's a great card. So we've also got Heroic Strike. Give your hero +4 attack this turn. That's kind of like having a weapon, except it doesn't have the durability that lets us use it twice. So it's a pretty good card. I don't know if we'll take it yet. And we've got Whirlwind, which does 1 damage to all minions, including your own. Not really my style, so, you know, unless I was making a really specific type of warrior deck, but just for a generic deck, I don't think I'm going to take it. And then we have no 0 cost cards. So we're sitting here at 24 out of 30. And we're going to want to add in our final cards. So what we're going to do is we're going to look through and check for a couple of things. We're going to make sure that we have card draw if we need it. It's always good to have card draw, but sometimes you really need card draw. If you're going to be playing a lot of low-cost minions, it means you're going to be playing a lot of cards out of your hand, which means you're going to have less cards in your hand every turn, and you're going to want to draw those cards back up so you can play more cards as well, or you'll run out of cards while your opponent still has a lot of cards, and then you're at a serious disadvantage there unless you have really good control of the board. So we look for card draw. We look for taunt, because taunt is, you know, always good, always essential. You want to have some kind of taunt, or something that can add taunt to a minion. And then just anything else that we need. So looking in here, you know, we got a little bit of heals. We've got some removal with Cleave. We got a little bit of card draw with the Novice Engineer. Got a little bit of card draw with Shield Block. Got some buffing with Shattered Sun. We've got taunt with Shield Master. We've got some direct damage with the Stormpike Commando. Got a little bit of buffing with the Stormwind Commando, or Stormwind Champion. So let's take a look at our mana curve. And you can see here that we're still sitting at about pretty even bar curve, or not bar curve, pretty even bar for the most part. So we're probably going to want to add in a little bit more in the 2, 3, and 4 mana range to give us a nice sort of curve. You know, maybe look for another 2 cost card, another 4 cost card, and 2, or maybe 2. We might take out a card for to boost the 3s up a little bit. So let's take a look at our 3 cost cards. We've got the Warsong Commander, which we could put in there. We've got Charge, and then we've got a bunch of stuff over here that might come in handy. We've got the Raid Leader who can buff. Wolf Rider for Charge. I think I'm going to go with the Warsong Commander. So now you can see we got a little bit of a peak here. We got 4 cards left. So let's take a look at maybe a 4 cost card. See what we've got. Could get the Chillwind Yeti. That's a good choice. Really solid card. We've also got the Gnomish Inventor, which will give us more card draw. But we don't have a whole bunch of like 1, 2, 3 cost cards. So I think we're good as far as card draw goes, just having the Novice Engineer and having Shield Block. You know, that's 4 extra cards we're going to get to draw at some point. So I'm going to put the Yeti in there. And we've got 2 left, so I'm just going to hop back, look at all my warrior cards, and just make sure, you know, hey, was there anything that I might want to put in here? And I think I'm going to throw in Heroic Strike. So here we go. We just made this fairly, you know, basic, nothing complicated to it, warrior deck. And we have a good curve here. And you can see it's just a nice gradual kind of curve. And that's basically how you can go about building your deck. So the next thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take that deck, and I'm just going to go ahead and relabel this as Demo Warrior. and you're going to want to go test it. And easy way to test it is just to play against, just to play against the Innkeeper. So what I would do is I'd go into practice, go to normal, choose, make sure you got your right deck selected, and then you can play against whoever you want. Play against whoever you think is going to be the strongest against your deck. Or a lot of times I'll just go warrior versus warrior. Or mage versus mage. You know, whatever you want to do. Now the good thing about playing against the computer is you have all the time to think that you want. There's no time limit on the turns or anything like that. So with this really generic deck, we're just going to want to, try to get some low-cost minions. Cleave's a nice card to have, but we don't have any low-cost minions, so I'm just going to get rid of all of it and hope that we get something. Because we do have some low-cost minions. And we didn't get anything, but we did get minions instead of spells and weapons, which is good. Got an execute. That's not helpful. Alright, we got a Voodoo Doctor who will heal us for 2. So we probably don't want to use him right now. We could use a creature on the board, but I'm just going to go ahead and armor up and see what I get on the next turn. And if I get something on the next turn, okay. Now see, he would have instantly killed our Voodoo Doctor with that. Okay, so this isn't too bad. We got the Shattered Sun Cleric, we got the Voodoo Doctor, so we could play one of these, but what I'm thinking is we armor up again, we get him to waste this weapon, and then we can play the Voodoo Doctor, heal back to 2 health, and also play Shattered Sun Cleric to buff the Voodoo Doctor on the next turn. So that's what I'm going to do. And we're just seeing how the cards draw, we're seeing if our deck makes sense. Weaknesses, like already I'm like, you know what? We don't have enough creatures that are low mana costs, or we're just not drawing them very well. I would go back and I would look at that and say, hey, what do we have? What's going wrong? So I'm going to do exactly what I said I was going to do. I'm going to play the Voodoo Doctor, get that 2 health restored, and then I'm going to play the Shattered Sun Cleric and buff the Voodoo Doctor. So now we got 3 2/2s on the board on turn 4. That's okay. We'd probably be hurting a lot more against the advanced AI.
What you want?
Okay, so we got a taunt on the board. We got to figure out what we're gonna do about it. I don't really want to sacrifice these guys for a 2/2. I could put this guy out. I think I'm gonna drop this guy. He's got charge. We could run him into here. And then we can trade for this guy and start attacking him. I figured that was gonna happen. Okay. So we got a couple of options here. We got 6 mana. Lots of stuff we can do. We could put the Shield Master out. We could get some card draw going. We could buff ourselves and take this guy out. Something to keep in mind when you're playing a warrior is if you're going to attack something and you have the mana for it, make sure you use your armor first before you do that. So let's see. If we armor up Heroic Strike, that's going to cost us 4 mana. It's going to leave us with 2 mana. We could Novice Engineer. Or we could put a Sinjin out and an Engineer. We could Shield Block. I think we're gonna put a Sinjin out. And we'll play a Novice Engineer.
I hope you like my invention.
Now most of the time you want to play this first. In case you get something better than that Sinjin. But, we're doing this just to see how the deck works. Okay, so I'm glad we didn't use our heroic strike now. Because now we can use it to help take out that Sinjin. Or we could play this guy and buff our dudes. Not a bad idea either. I think what we're going to do is we're going to shield block. Okay, we got 4 mana left. I think I'm just going to armor up and give myself heroic strike. And then run this into here. And then 3 damage to the face. So we're getting a good flow. Like I said, against the advanced, we'd probably not be doing so hot. Alright, we got the combo right here, and I'm going to use it. We're going to Stormpike Commando, and shoot this guy. And then we're going to play Execute. And then we can either play the Voodoo Doctor or we can armor up. I like to keep cards in my hand, so let's armor up. Okay, we're not worried about those. That we're worried about. But here's the good thing. He's running out of cards. You can see up here, he's got 1 card left in his hand. So he's on thin ice right now. Let's play another shield block. See what we get. We got another Execute, which we don't really need right now. I'm going to put the Yeti out there and hope that he runs this stuff into it to kill it. And I'm going to armor up again. That we're going to want to get rid of. Alright, that's okay. We're cool with that. Okay, we got another Yeti. Let's see, I think we're going to put the Yeti out again. And I think we're going to put our Kor'kron out there. We're going to sacrifice him. But we're going to do some damage here. And then armor up again. See, he just did the work for us. We don't have to damage this guy now. We could just execute him. Okay, we got our Boulder Fist. I'm definitely going to play that. I'm going to execute this guy. I'm going to armor up. And I'm going to kill this. Now I'm going to play the Voodoo Doctor and heal the Yeti. Oh, that's unfortunate. Okay, we got the Stormpike Commando, so we can... I think what we're going to do is we're going to... play Stormwind Champion, get everything +1/+1. That'll give us 7, 5, 12 damage against him. He's got 21. We really want to clear his board though. So I think we're going to play Stormwind Champion. We're going to take out this guy. We're going to take out this guy. We're going to armor up. So he's got nothing. And we have our Arcanite Reaper, which is great. So we're definitely going to play this, and we're going to play this. We're just going to go ahead and kill that. Now we're gonna throw everything in his face.
Ready to ride.
Doesn't matter. We win.
For the Alliance!
So that wasn't bad. I think we ended with. I think we had what, 40 combined points, 28 health and 12 armor or something like that at the end. Now, like I said, against the player, against the computer, I would have gone a lot worse. Something I definitely saw that I would go back, and I'll go back right now and just check it out. So I'll go back to my collection. I'll take a look at this, and I'll go, okay, so we had one cost creature, two cost creatures, or sorry, we got 2 1 cost, 2 cost, 4 3 cost. So I honestly kind of want to put another 2 cost minion in here. So I think I'd probably take out either Cleave or Heroic Strike. Let's just go with Heroic Strike for right now. And go find another 2 cost minion, because I felt like, we didn't have a lot of stuff to play early on in the game, and that could cause a lot of problems for us later on. And I just want the basic set. So, maybe I'd go in and get my River Crocolisk, because, he's my favorite. Maybe I'll get a Swamp Ooze to destroy my opponent's weapon. Something like that. Maybe I'll get one of each. Why not? So here's a deck that we just built, Demo Warrior. We used the concepts that we just talked about. We tried it out in a game. We came back and we, tried to figure out, hey, what can we improve? What's better? So the next step for me would be to either test it against different classes at the normal level of the Innkeeper, or to play it against more advanced classes against the Innkeeper and tweak it some more based on that. And then to take it into just casual play mode and see how it does. Something to keep in mind when you are in play mode is you can't get discouraged if you lose. Especially if you get a really bad hand or your opponent gets a really good starting hand. Because sometimes that's just the luck of the draw. Sometimes, you mulligan some cards and you end up with 2 Stormwind Champions and a Boulder Fist Ogre first thing in the game, and you're like, I can't do anything with this. I don't have the mana for this, and you're just stuck there doing nothing. That doesn't necessarily mean that your deck is bad. However, if you get a good starting hand, you get your low-cost minions that you need, you get your key spells and stuff like that, and it just feels like something is off, chances are there is something off. But I encourage you to play several games with your deck after you do like an initial, test, just in general, against the AI. Play several games with your deck, and when you do make adjustments, make small adjustments. If you find that like every game you're like, I need a creature or a spell or something that can silence other things, and I don't have one, and just for example, you're like, I need to put an Ironbeak Owl in my deck somewhere, at least one. Okay, do that. Put that one card in there, play with it some more, see how it does. But don't get discouraged if your deck isn't phenomenal, if you lose some games or stuff like that. I have my favorite deck right now, and these are all getting destroyed come Monday, is my Mage deck, which is based all around secrets. And just so you guys know what secrets are basically you play them and they sit on your character until something happens to trigger them. So for example, this one, when your opponent casts a spell, counter it. When your opponent plays a minion, summon a copy of it. When a minion attacks your hero, destroy it. Stuff like that. And this deck does really, really well for the bracket that I play in, which is basically do my daily quests and get to 20 every month so I can get the card back in ranked. That's kind of the point that I'm at, because I kind of came in a little late to the game, and they had already announced that there was going to be an expansion, and I was like, I'll try to move up the ladder when this new expansion comes out. So for what I do, it's great. I still lose. Sometimes a lot. Sometimes I just have really bad luck. Sometimes it comes down to one card. One card made the difference between winning and losing, and you just can't get frustrated. It doesn't feel good to lose, but it doesn't mean your deck is bad. It doesn't mean that you're a bad player. It just means that, hey, sometimes that's what happens. So that's why I encourage you to test your decks on several games and make small adjustments. And so just using the basic set is kind of boring, to be honest. You can make some good cards, but you're going to want to get card packs. You're going to want to craft some stuff in the crafting mode and things like that. But just in general, this should give you a good idea of how to start building a deck and what's important when you're building a deck, and maybe give you some ideas. And just real quick, just to let you guys know a couple of basic deck ideas you can do. You can do the warrior like I was just talking about there. Just like I said, go to hearthhead.com or hearthprone.com, look up a basic deck if you need to have a starting point, and then tweak that deck. Whatever you got to do. But like I said, you should have a pretty good grasp on the basics, and hopefully come this Monday when I start opening packs and stuff in Goblins vs. Gnomes, we'll be able to put together some decks as a team, hopefully, and just come up with some crazy stuff to do during that streaming time period. So thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it, and I will see you on the next stream.